good time talking about old times, which is what we really wanted to happen today. I'm delighted to see everyone here. More people than we actually thought would show up on a cloudy, overcast day, and I'm afraid soon to be raining. But thank all of y'all for coming. This is really a monumental day, and I think in the history of Union County. I want to first, I think before we start, I'm going to ask Norman Cooper if he'd lead us in the invocation, and then Reed Dyer, one of those Dyers, is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we got an old school flag over on the wall, so that's the flag that we'll be pledging to this morning. So Norman, if you'll go ahead.
Bow with me, please. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your many blessings that you give us. We thank you for this wonderful community that we live in. We thank you for our leaders who are dedicated to preserving our heritage and our citizens who are dedicated to helping to find ways to fund projects like this that we can preserve our heritage. We ask your blessings on this gathering today. Amen.
If you'll stand, we'll do the pledge over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated.
Not really.
Some of you can be seated. We've got the healthy people on this side of the room, and we've got people over here that need to have a seat. So. What I'm going to do, I've had to make a little bit of a change as we go along this morning, but first I want to thank everybody that's involved in this, and that's always a bad time because you're always apt to forget somebody, and I'm sure this won't be any different. So if I do, somebody will let me know now. Right after I finish it, I won't be as embarrassed because I can still do it while I'm telling you the next part of the story. I want to first thank Joe Nickerson. And Joe, we don't know what's happened to him because Joe's going to be here. He is the carpenter who has overseen this entire project using detainee assistants and Officer Heaton from the Carlton-Caldwell Detention Center. They have done this in just about this entire project. We think sometimes the guys that are in prison is not being the best people in the world, but what we found is when we get them out on these jobs, they get their heart in it just like we do, and they really try to do a good job. And they even got out here early this morning cleaning up. I want to thank the Blue Ridge EMC. They are always here to help the county in anything we need. I'll talk about that a little bit more. Marcy Culpepper, where's Marcy? Marcy did the design, interior design of this building, and the colors and everything, and I want to give her a hand. This is just a beautiful job. And Marcy does interior design, that's her vocation, and she also did our community center. If you've been over there, she designed in every color, every fabric, every artwork, everything in that building. So she's really amazing. We thank you very much for what you've done out here. County folks that have kind of supervised this project, I don't know if they're inside or not. Mike Thomason is outside. Johnny Holbrooks. Johnny, hold your hand up. Johnny lives right up the road, so he comes over here day and night working. Pam Warden. Is Pam in here? Pam's over here. She has done a lot of arranging and working and organizing for this. She also handles all of our SPLOST sales tax dollars that is what we use to build this facility. Peggy Deaton.
Here.
Over here. Peggy is my executive assistant and my right-hand lady, and I couldn't get anything done without her. And of course, Larry Garrett, I'm sure he's outside wandering around somewhere. He's never in where anybody can see him, and he is literally the right hand of the county. David Looper, who is not here, but he's David Looper Movers. And when y'all get a chance and look at these pictures over here on the table, this was a pretty monumental job ever moving this thing. Bud Bills, who's not here, but he donated a sewing machine, one of the desks, and the wood heater over here in the corner. And we had another desk donated by residents of Moon Ridge. They didn't want to use anybody's individual name, just some of the residents up there. And a nice one. And then the Animal Shelter and Humane Society store called us and said, somebody just brought in 3 desks, would you like to come look at them? I said, oh my gosh, yeah. So I rushed over there and they donated those 3 desks to the county for this facility. And so those are all over here. Kathy Daves, who couldn't be here today, has donated several books. I just wrote down the word SPLOSH, not that I want to remind anybody that it's an election coming up on Tuesday, or that you can go straight from here to the courthouse today and tomorrow and vote early voting for the SPLOSH. We need every vote. Every vote counts, and we need everybody that's in here that lives in Union County to make that special effort to get out and vote and get your friends and family to vote. John Moon, thank you, always shows up and last minute call, and he'd seen it in the paper and already planned on being here. So thank you, John, very much for his John Moon video service. Lee Knight, a small guy back there in the back with a little white beard. He's our tax commissioner, and I want to thank him, and he'll be saying a few words later on. And then I guess finally, we'll talk about some of them too later on. All educators and students of the Choestoe Valley. This is a valley of Union County that not only is one of the most beautiful, but I hate to say it because I wasn't born up here, but it's one of the smartest. They've got some of the smartest people that were born and raised up in this part. And there's a long history of statewide leaders that have come out of the Choestoe Valley. Refreshments are being provided by Grinds and Glazes. We'll be able to get to that in just a few minutes. And then we'll finish up with ribbon cutting. After I get through here, we're going to do the ribbon cutting, but to make it easier on everybody, we're just going to leave everybody in their seat. And all these people right here are going to crowd around both sides, and we're going to cut the ribbon right here in the front of this photo. So hopefully that'll be easy to know what's going on. I had down that this is going to be a real short program, and I started making some notes last night, and I decided, well, maybe it's not going to be quite as short as I'd planned on it being. But I think it's a story that needs to be told today about what happened, how it happened, and so that I wouldn't miss anything, I kind of wrote this out. I'm going to do something I really don't like to do often is try to read it, and in the interim of that reading, try to make up some things as I go along. So if you'll bear with me, I may have to move around. But how did all this occur? It began with a call from the William and Emily Windsor family out of Mableton, Georgia in 2003, who owned the old Choestoe campground property, and were going to sell the property and felt that the old school building was in such bad condition that it would not help to sell their property, and they'd be better off either tearing the building down or getting rid of it. And so they came to the county and said, are you interested in this building? Well, believe it or not, we have a lot of people that come to the county and have something, a building or an old house or something they want to donate, and you know, you always wish you could do it, but this is one of those things that Larry Garrett and I went out and looked at it. There was right about in this area, there was a hole about 3 feet in diameter in the roof, and consequently there was a rotted out hole 3 feet in diameter in the floor. And then the windows were probably 2/3 broken out, just rotten everywhere just about, except for the floor and the walls seem to be reasonably substantial. But remember, this is back in 2003. That's what I told you. I'll start getting off and start ad-libbing a little bit. So give me time, because I want to make sure I don't miss anything as we go along. Our next problem was, what do we do if we move the building? And how could we justify spending taxpayer funds, your money, to save a treasure of an old building? The Byron Herbert Reese Farm place and the board was at a similar place on the old Reese Farm. We were trying to decide what were we gonna do at the Byron Herbert Reese Farm. The board, we knew we had a beautiful place, we knew we had some good buildings, but we didn't know what and how we could do. And so about the same time, we were having a meeting, and a gentleman by the name of Keith Jones, and Keith, you'll hold your hand up. Keith happens to be the son of Ethelene Dyer Jones, and you hold your hand up. You'll see her a little bit later. Keith was at the Byron Herbert Reese meeting. After the meeting was over, he came up to me and he said, would the county, and I was telling him about, we had somebody offer this building to us. You know, we thought about, well, maybe we could move it to Meeks Park. We had room out there. Maybe we could move it to the Byron Herbert Reese property, but we knew the size of the building and the condition of the building would really make that about impossible. And it's one of those things that I just thought, you know, I just don't know what we're going to be able to do. Well, he came up to me and said, I've got a piece of property over in Choestoe. I'll donate it to the county if you'll move the school over there. Happens to be right here. Keith then let me know that he was excited about the possibility because it was a school building his mother, Mrs. Ethelene Dyer Jones, had first attended, and she was one of the last teachers at this school. So it had a special place in his heart. I was not used to people telling me they would donate property to the county. As soon as we came over here and looked at the property and saw the view and saw how beautiful it was, I knew this was the spot. So now I had one family giving us the old school building. I had another family giving us the property. It's caused a lot of sleepless nights on my behalf because it's still a lot of, you had to have seen the building and know what kind of condition it is, and was trying to figure out how can this really ever happen. So next, I called David Looper of Looper House Moving in Gainesville, and asked David to come up and look at it and tell us if it was even a possibility. And I'll be honest with you, in the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping he would say, well, Mara, there's just nothing we can do. We can't move it.
Chicken.
Well, the problem was, he said, as difficult as this could be, maybe one of the most difficult ones he had, he said, I think it can be done. And then we talked about, well, how much can we do it for? Is it something we can afford? And he really worked with the county and really did a yeoman's job. But that was not the end of, or actually that wasn't even the beginning of this story. The next couple of years, if you've ever been on Collins Road back in the old days, it was a narrow road with road banks right up on the edge of the pavement. And he also told me when he was telling me that it was doable, he said, but you've got a lot of pieces of property you've got to widen out on this road there to be able to get the schoolhouse moved over here. So for the next couple of years, I had to work on widening Collins Road in several spots. The first problem is when you turn into Collins Road, right out here off the Highway 180, the biggest and the most beautiful, probably over 100-year dogwood tree was sitting in the yard of Mr. Ralph Twiggs. And David Looper said there's no way we can get that house by that tree. He said, you got to do something. So I went and talked to Mr. Twiggs, sat on his porch, one of many times that I sat on his porch, talking about the tree. And we agreed that the county would make every effort to try to move that tree, pick it up, move it out of the way till the house got by, and set it back in the hole and try to replant it. Pretty wild even thought to even think of that. But he wanted to know that we were going to try, and I had to make that effort to try. So we hired two guys with those huge backhoes. The dogwood tree was probably that big around in diameter. And it had a root ball probably half as big as this room. It took both backhoes with a strap on it just to pick it up enough to move it about 10 feet over, get the vehicle by, and then start again, putting it back in the ground. I did get him to agree that if for some reason the tree did not live, we would plant him some more trees in his yard to make up for it. And to his credit, because this deal was dead in the water if it hadn't been for that one tree. For his credit, he said okay. And so it took the road department and some hired folks, it took us 2 or 3 or 4 days, I don't even remember, to get that tree up and get it moved and get it back in the ground. But in the process, it was too much for that old tree. And so the first year, part of it died. The second year, a little bit more of it died. And the third year, it finished itself off. But for that period in time, we were by the tree with the house, as far as planning goes. The next thing we had to do is get by. He also had about 300 feet of property, a road bank, and a whole row of pretty white pines right down the side of the road. Well, there again, sitting up on his porch, talking to him a few times and trying to talk him into, will you let us cut those trees, move the road bank by, because we got to do that. Well, there again, he came up and said, yeah, we could. And we agreed to do some things around his yard and try to fix some things up. So we were by that spot. Then we went by Ms. Litton's house. There was another house on the left we had to work on. We could meander our way back and forth on one side of the road, the other side of the road, because this building was 46 feet wide. Our road's 20 feet wide. So we had a lot of overhang. So then the last obstacle was Mr. Dyer, Troy Dyer, right across the road. And he had a big bank over here that we couldn't get by. And went up and talked to him. He was just more than willing to help, and he let us trade that. So the county came back and widened all the spots in the road, and then we had David Looper come up here and move the house. Next thing we need to do is talk to Janice Dyer. Lance, got a lot of Dyers in this part of the country. And she owns the property right next door. Well, there's no way we could do this work and do this grading without damaging or grading or being on or having cars on or bulldozers on her property. We talked to her, and even though they had a house here, they again were willing to work with us and do whatever we needed to do. So people just kept agreeing, and things just kept happening, and we thought, okay, this is really going to happen. The next thing, however, I had to justify moving and accepting the old school. Just because I wanted to save this historic structure did not mean we could just spend money on it. So we'd all sit down and worked our minds and what little minds we had, and we talked about what we could do and how we could really use it and justify it. And it was pretty easy because we always had a problem with our Choestoe voting precinct, which is a fire station. Every time we had an election, those people had to pull all the equipment out. The floor had grease on it because they had some old engines. Had to clean all that up. Didn't have an adequate restroom facilities. And it was just not a good voting site. And I thought, this is the secret. This will be our new Choestoe voting precinct. And at the same time, we'll be able to make this a community center. And so that's what we did. And that's what we've done. And as soon as we move out here today, starting tomorrow, election equipment will start coming in here for the election. We had to make some changes. We couldn't renovate the school. We couldn't make a museum out of it because we had to have other uses for it to be able to justify doing it. Plus, it was in such bad condition, there was no way really to renovate it exactly like it used to be because it had been redone and done through the years so many times. It was hard to know exactly how it did used to be. We do know, though, that this originally was a 2-room schoolhouse. And there was a petition that came down from the ceiling about 3 feet. Don't nod at me like I'm wrong, because I could be. But there was a petition across here, and they had to get some of the gentlemen in the community to come up here every time they wanted to put the petition up or take it down. So it could be a 2-room schoolhouse or a 1-room schoolhouse. So it ended up, in the end, actually being a 1-room schoolhouse, which is what it is today. But at one time, and that's why the 2 doors, each one came into each side into each individual classroom. And the other thing we hope that all of you in the community that live up here will, when you have events that need the use of this place, that this will be available for, family reunions, weddings, just family gatherings. But this allowed us to justify the expense with a splost, and this is where in my notes I have to bring up the splost again, but I don't want to wear you out about that. We've already covered that. Just don't forget to go to the polls. Today, tomorrow, it's easy to leave right here. So easy. But that allowed us to have the funding to pay for this. Had a few people ask me what have we got in it, and today we think that with moving and we moved it over to this site, we built a basement on it, so we got a full basement that we can store tables and chairs in. The property work that we had to do, had to put a well in, and of course, inordinate amount of work that went into the reconstruction of this building. We're going to be in it right at $200,000. And I think that is amazing that you can do something like this. So when you hear people say, or if you read anything on some little document laying around somewhere, it says that we don't know what we're doing or how we're running our SPOS program, you can say, well, they sure as hell know how to build a schoolhouse. This is something I think we certainly can all be proud of. Without the generosity of Ethelene Dyer Jones and her family, this project could not have happened. I would like to have Miss Dyer, Miss Ethelene come up, and her son Keith, if you'll come up. Somebody had to take pictures of Keith. Without the Dyer family in Union County, which is, I think everybody here is just about some kind of Dyer or kin to a Dyer.
Sometimes several ways.
Several, yes. Sometimes it may not be appropriate. And many descendants, many of whom are here today, and many who have helped educate the students all over this valley and all over Union County for many years. And on behalf of the citizens of Union County, I want to hereby dedicate this school building to Mrs. Ethelene Dyer Jones. Hold that just a minute. I got a cheat sheet over here to read what's on it. She was telling me right before, early when she got here today, she was telling me, she said, now you know that this used to be this, and it was this date, and it used to be this, and I said, and I had to sit there, my wife called her over and said, you need to listen to her, she wants to talk about this. I said, it's on the plaque, just wait. Just give me time. Choestoe Schoolhouse opened 1936, closed 1954, dedicated to Ethelene Dyer Jones. Ethelene Dyer Jones attended the Choestoe School as a student when the school first opened in 1936 to 1943, part of the original first class grade. She later graduated from Choestoe here in the 7th grade, went to Union County High School and entered there and graduated. Upon graduation, Mrs. Jones began her teaching career back here at the Choestoe School, where she had gone to school in 1949 and 50. Following a declining pupil population, Choestoe became from a 2-room to a 1-room school. Mrs. Jones had 25 students, covering all the 7 grades, primary through 7th grade. She was also one of the last teachers at Choestoe before the school closed in 1954.
And I want all these people to know that your mother was my wonderful teacher in high school at a very, very crucial time in my life, the year my mother died. And she meant so much to me. She is rejoicing in heaven over this, I'm sure. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing. we have a bronze plaque that will have her picture on it, and it will be mounted right outside the door. Unfortunately, it didn't quite get here in time, but it will be out here for everyone always to know that this is dedicated to you. So
Thank you. May I
Talk
speak
to-
just a minute?
you can speak.
First of all,
No, you can never
my son loves me. All those who went to school in this building, not just a Choestoe school, but I mean in this building, would you please stand or raise your hand? Stand if you went to school in this building. Okay. I know there's at least one other teacher besides myself who taught here. My sister Louise was my second grade teacher. Louise, will you please stand? Louise Dyer. She taught second grade here. She taught primer through third grade here when I was in second grade, and she was the hardest teacher. She would not let me get away with anything, and I would say after school, Louise, why were you so hard on me today? And she said, I do not want the other pupils thinking I'm petting you because you're my sister. So I got the brunt every single day. But when I came back...
And you said the same thing to me when I was in your class.
Anyway, I had 2 years of college at Pruitt McConnell College. It was brand new. I was a charter student there. I graduated in the spring of 1949. I started teaching here. Can you believe the County Board of Education agreed to let me at age 19 teach with 2 years of college, all 7 grades, really 8 because we had some just beginning, and we called that primer then. And through 7th grade, I had students in every single grade. Not a one did not have a student. So imagine a brand new teacher trying to find out how to teach that many grades, that many students, that many subjects in one day's time. People oftentimes walk by the road and looked at the school, and I could see them through the window. And one day, Miss Lee Twiggs, you've heard about the Twiggses today and how the tree was moved to get this wonderful building in place. Well, Miss Lee Twiggs was my neighbor, and I guess she wondered if I could really teach. So I saw her tripping by the school and looking, and we were so quiet, really having our classes like we should. So later, Miss Twiggs said to me, Eveline, I went by your school today, and I didn't hear a cheep coming from there. Were you there? I said, yes, ma'am. I saw you going by and looking in at our school. And she said, well, you were so quiet. I thought you had turned out school early and let those children go home. But no, indeed, we were right here having class. Well, I want to tell you just a little bit about the building. If you can imagine the partition going right through here, that door was not over there then, but the partition came this way, and a great portion of it would come down. It was hinged somehow, so we could make one great big room. And down in what is now the basement, which was under the floor then, where we played on rainy days at recess and lunch, there was a movable stage that people like my daddy and my Uncle Harv, I guess, and others had built to move when we had programs. You said when we made this one big room for everybody. Really, we didn't do that, to my knowledge, unless we were having a community program. like a box supper to raise money for the school, including a cakewalk, or we'd have some community sings, or we'd have an Easter program or a Christmas program, and graduation. We always had graduation for the 7th graders, complete with speeches and everything. Say yes, people who went to school here. Okay, we were a #1 class school. We did it all right. And do you know, I think Byron Herbert Reese went to school here in the old building, and so many important people. And from this community came Dr. Moni Douglas Collins, who for 25 years was state school superintendent. He too was kin to most of us in this community. He got his start as a teacher, not in this building, of course, that was way before this was built in '36, but he got his start in probably the New Liberty School. And he went on to be state school superintendent for 25 years. And these are some of the accomplishments he did while he was in state office. He brought our schools from one teacher, country schools, to consolidation. He got bus transportation free for students in our state. He got free textbooks for us so that the parents would not have to buy the books anymore. He got the minimum foundation program for education, where we knew where the money was coming from in tax dollars to finance the schools. He started the teacher retirement system of Georgia, so folks like me, when we retired, would not have to worry about how are we going to live. We'd have a retirement to live on. He started vocational school training in Georgia. I could go on and on. That's 6 of the major accomplishments that M.D. Collins from this community was able to do for education in the state of Georgia. Now, how do I feel about starting my 30-plus years of teaching here? When I entered first grade in 1936 in July, because we had summer session, and then we were out for fall farm work like syrup making that my daddy did profusely, as most of you know. We had to stop and help work for 6 weeks or more, and then we would come back. But I came that 1936 as a little first grader. My mother did not send me when I was 5 because she knew this building was going to be open in '36. It was in process. And she didn't want me to go to that shackly old 2-story Choestoe building with a large hall upstairs that we never could go to see what was really up there. She wanted me to start in the new building, and I did. And I sat right over there where that man has his arm on the windowsill. I didn't sit in the windowsill, I guess it was underneath. But anyway, my little desk was there. And Miss Merle Collins was my first grade teacher, a wonderful teacher. Louise Dyer was my second grade teacher. Miss Merle was back for my 3rd grade. In 4th and 5th was Miss Opal Sullivan. And we loved the days her daddy, Mr. Jess, was her substitute, because he told us wild tales and entertained us the whole time. And then 6th and 7th grade, Miss Florence Hunter was my teacher. And no matter where I went in school, whether to high school at Blairsville, to Truett McConnell, to Mercer University, to Western Carolina University, to the University of Georgia, It's not that I got kicked out of all those schools. I got some degrees from each of them. But anyway, wherever I went to school, my wonderful beginning in Choestoe School paid off. And it was here I learned that I wanted to be a teacher. And I held on to that aim, and I became a teacher. And I thank God and all the other people who made possible this wonderful building for me to come to as a little first grader, where I began my journey in learning and loved it all of my life. Thank you. This is such an honor. I never, ever dreamed this was going to happen. They pulled the wool over my eyes today.
Anything I was going to say would be totally irrelevant after being behind such an eloquent speaker. Unbelievable. I think you've answered. I was going to let a few more people come up and talk, but since we've been here a while, and I know y'all are probably wanting something to eat, and we can talk to all the folks. I was going to get Harold Dyer up here because he was a student here, and I know there's a lot of things he did that were not good. So what I'm going to do is let you get up with Harold and see if he'll be honest with you and tell you what he did when he was up here that might not have been exactly the way it should have been. But we appreciate it. Again, everybody coming, what an honor. Now, what we're going to do is all of you people just stay where you are. I need all of these people and all of you people to come in and try to file down the left side so they can take a picture from right up here. I'm gonna just keep it out.
All the way back. There you go.
Okay, now look right over there, at the picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. We can have your attention one more time. I want to just real quick let them introduce themselves and tell them when they went to school here and who their parents were.
Lord Shelton, but I don't remember what year it was.
Wilma Moult.
Wilma
Dyer
Dyer.
Moult. I do not know when I,
I can tell you.
from the beginning of time, I think.
1938 to 1943. That's my sister, my two sisters.
That's your two sisters.
Yeah.
Ethelene Dyer Jones, 1936 through 1943. And I taught here 1949 and 50.
And your sister?
Louise Dyer, she went to the old building here, not this one. And she taught here in 1937, 38. No, wait a minute. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
taught me.
That's close enough.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Janelle Dyer Burns. Harold just told you when I came to school.
1938 to 1945.
Good. Harold, do you know did somebody got something to read to you when you were here?
Yeah, I got it. I didn't take speech in this school. I took reading, writing, arithmetic, and geography, and history. That's all.
But he's like our cousin Ethelene. He learned better than we did.
I was here from 1939 to 1946.
Alvin Dyer, I don't remember the year, but it was the 4th and 5th grade. Miss Hazel Collins was my teacher, and we used just this half over here. In fact, the old stove was sitting about where I am now, the old wood stove. So.
Louise Collins Stein. I went to school here from
first grade through the 7th. And I wanted to give a tribute to Opal Sullivan, who was my teacher from the 3rd grade through the 7th. She's one of the most outstanding teachers I ever had. She would take us on Friday out to the church where she played the piano, and she had a lot of programs that we would work on and get to go to church and practice them on Friday afternoon. And she was a marvelous person, and I wanted to give tribute to her today as one of the outstanding teachers at this school.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher myself. I spent 27 years in the classroom, and Clyde and Warnell added to that until we all three together spent 100 years teaching. I quit school in the 2nd grade, and Mother couldn't figure out what was wrong. She thought I was afraid she'd go to WMU and they'd have refreshments and I'd miss something. So I finally told her, being in a one-room, two-room school, you could hear what was going on in the next room. And I finally told her, if you look there and you let that teacher put me in the next grade, I know as much as they do. I don't need to be going and wasting the rest of my year sitting up there listening to the same thing over and over. So they elevated me a grade, and I missed the 2nd grade.
Ms. Wilnell.
Yes, I went to school here, yes.
I think you went in the old building in this same location, and she may have taught there, but I'm not positive when it was.
She taught me algebra in high school.
And she also taught me geometry, algebra, which I never learned.
She did her best to teach us.
But she tried hard.
She can probably help you now if you need it.
Yes, she did. Mr. Clyde.
There are a lot of you in here that I taught.
Say the same thing.
Can I tell you something he can't remember?
Yes.
Back, but he has told me this, that all that went to school with him in the old building have all passed away, and he's probably in the old building. And he said he and Neil Collins, which y'all know, would go real early in the morning because the Masons was upstairs. And they go real early in the morning thinking they'd hear the billy goat.
I never have seen it yet.
You wrote it though, didn't you, Clyde?
Huh?
You wrote it later though, didn't you?
He also told me that his very best teacher there was Dwight Clark. Any of you remember him? It's a long time ago. We really liked Dwight Clark.
But Laura, let me tell one thing that Ethelene probably doesn't know, and this young lady is forgot. I was probably in the 2nd or 3rd grade, I don't know when. But her husband Ray had an old truck, ton-and-a-half truck. I had beds on it, and they took us, I don't know how many went, but I know I went. We went to Murphy, North Carolina, first movie I have ever seen in a theater, and it was Gone with the Wind. We rode in the back of that truck down there, and back. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing about, there's a thing on this Facebook about if you grew up in Blairsville, and somebody put up the other day, who was your favorite teacher? And of course, Mr. Clyde Collins is my all-time favorite teacher. I love Mr. Clyde. And he taught me Georgia history as a freshman. So, Mr. Clyde, I love you and appreciate you.
Thank you.
This is Sylvan Dyer.
Sylvan Dyer, I'm Louise Dyer's son, and I think I went to Choestoe. I started at Choestoe in 46 or 47. And the reason I started a year late is because they said, the story goes, I was afraid to go by myself. So I had to wait till my sister got to be 6. I'm a year older than she is. So, as Ethelene said, that I don't know what year my mother taught, at the school. Or it might have been the two stores.
She taught 37, 38 years. She taught 37.
And where are you from? Where do you live in?
Right now, Auburn, Alabama.
Well, thank you for coming up, we appreciate it. And anybody have anything else that they feel like they need to say?
Yes, I won't tell you how mean Clyde and Neil were. Clyde's 5 years older than me and one else 7. And they finished up at this school, is near the church at that time. And they finished before I did naturally. And I had to walk by myself by the old cemetery. And they totally got me off to myself and pumped me full of it. I'd go up there and look in the first grave, I'd see the face of the woman and her glasses as well. And there's a little trail that went beside the old road down in the woods, and I made that trail hot with my road.
It's too bad that Clyde and Neil didn't have to pay for doing that to you back then. And also, I might mention, when you're talking about a trail, and I was just thinking about Neil Collins, who is, where's Miss Ruby? She's back over here. Her husband left here and was an Air Force pilot, and he flew jet planes. And so, every so often, there'd be a jet come up this valley right here, just right over the treetops. And you always knew it was Neil coming up through here, letting everybody know he was from Union County and he was out showing off a little bit. We always enjoyed it.
He almost took the shingles off.
And I think he got recorded a time or two for
That's a staple off the courthouse.
He gets credit for a lot of things, yes.
I used to hear these tales all my childhood, and I said, I just don't hardly believe all that. And my aunt said he would go so low you could see his face in the window.
I'm sure that's true. Anyway, any other stories?
This one little quick story. Miss Florence Hunter was my teacher in 6th and 7th grade, and her husband Joe drove a county bus. So somehow they got permission to take us on a field trip to none other than Atlanta, Georgia, to the cyclorama and the Atlanta Zoo. And that was my first time to go to Atlanta.
Wow.